Hey, Urban Explorers, welcome back to the Urbanist's Lens. I'm Drew back with another exciting discourse into the heart of our cities.
And I'm Clark, and yeah, I'm here to help us navigate some of those intricate paths of urban development.
You know, Clark, just this week I was walking around trying to grab a bagel near my place, and it felt like every storefront was turning into some high-end boutique or another.
Yeah, it's the never-ending cycle, right? The city's constantly shifting and reshaping itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, though, what happens to the communities who were there before, those fancy storefronts popped up. Where do they go when the city starts changing all around them? And I think that's what we're diving into today: urban explorers, urban redevelopment, and gentrification.
It's a crucial conversation for anyone who loves cities, and for this discourse, we're going to zoom in on Houston's Third Ward.
All right, so let's unpack this a bit for those who might not be familiar. Houston's Third Ward is a historically black neighborhood rich in culture and community.
And like many urban areas across the country, it's facing the pressures of gentrification. So the city created the Midtown Redevelopment Authority, or MRA, to try and address this. And their mission: promote affordable housing and curb the negative impacts of gentrification.
Sounds like a pretty tall order, so how'd they go about it?
Well, they decided to invest a hefty $22 million into building the One Emancipation Center.
Okay.
It's a 5-story office building envisioned as a central hub for affordable housing initiatives.
Okay. A $22 million investment in affordable housing, and it's an office building. Help me understand the thinking there.
So the idea was to create kind of a one-stop shop for resources and services and to attract affordable housing providers to set up shop there, but things haven't quite gone according to plan.
Oh, what happened?
Well, for one, the occupancy rate's hovering around 50%.
Hmm.
The building itself is mostly empty, and they haven't been able to attract those affordable housing providers they hoped for.
So this grand project, this supposed beacon of affordable housing, is sitting half empty. It seems like sometimes, even with the best intentions, these big flashy projects don't really translate into
Right.
actual benefits for the community. What do you think?
I think you've hit on a crucial point. It's a reminder that we need to look beyond the surface, beyond those grand announcements and those ribbon-cutting ceremonies. What really matters is the impact on the ground, on the people who are supposed to benefit from these projects.
Absolutely. And speaking of impact on the ground,
Yeah.
how's all of this playing out in the Third Ward itself?
Well, with this project not delivering as promised gentrification, pressures continue to mount, property values are rising, rents are going up, and long-term residents, especially those with lower incomes, are finding it harder and harder to stay in the neighborhood.
It's a story we're seeing play out in cities all across the country, isn't it? Those rising rents, the changing landscape of the neighborhood.
Mm.
It pushes people out of the places they've called home for years.
Exactly. And adding another layer of complexity is the MRA's land banking strategy.
Land banking. Fill us in. What is that exactly?
Essentially, the MRA acquires land and holds onto it, hoping to control how it's developed.
So they're trying to manage development, which, sounds good in theory, but I'm guessing there's a downside?
Yeah, the problem is a lot of this land sits vacant, which actually drives up prices for everyone else. Some argue that it actually limits the availability of land for affordable housing, so it becomes this kind of double-edged sword.
Trying to manage development but potentially making the problem worse. At the same time, classic urban planning dilemma, isn't it? Trying to find that balance between the need for growth and the needs of the community.
It is, and it highlights the complexities of these issues. There's
Yeah.
rarely a simple solution, and unfortunately, as we've seen in the Third Ward, it's often the community that ends up bearing the brunt of those unintended consequences.
It's more than just losing a home. It's losing that connection to a place, to a community.
It's about the potential erosion of the very fabric of the neighborhood, and the Third Ward's experience isn't isolated. It mirrors what's happening in cities across the country. So let's zoom out for a moment and talk about those broader impacts of displacement. What happens when people are forced out of the neighborhoods?
Let's dive in. What are the ripple effects we need to be aware of?
When people are displaced, you see this ripple effect that impacts nearly every aspect of their lives. It can lead to social fragmentation, economic hardship, even health consequences.
Let's break that down a bit. What does social fragmentation look like, in a real world sense?
Well, think of it like this. You've got a community that's been tightly woven together for generations, families, friends, neighbors supporting each other, sharing traditions, creating a sense of belonging.
Sounds like the Third Ward.
Exactly. Now imagine those connections being stretched, frayed, sometimes even broken as people are forced to move away. They lose access to their support systems, their familiar institutions, their sense of place. It's incredibly disruptive.
It's like pulling a thread on a sweater and watching the whole thing unravel. And that disruption extends beyond the social fabric, right? What about the economic impact?
Often displacement leads to this cascade of economic challenges. People are forced to move to areas with higher living costs, which puts an even greater strain on already tight budgets.
So it's like getting hit with a double whammy. You lose your home, and then your expenses go up in your new location.
And it doesn't stop there. Many people also lose their jobs when they relocate because they're further away from their workplaces. This often pushes families into areas with fewer job opportunities, creating this vicious cycle that's incredibly difficult to break.
So we're talking social isolation, economic hardship. It sounds like displacement can have a pretty devastating impact on a person's overall well-being.
Absolutely. Studies have shown a strong link between displacement and an increase in anxiety, depression, other mental health issues. The stress and uncertainty of losing your home, your community, it takes a toll.
It makes sense you're losing your anchors,
Yeah.
the things that give you stability and a sense of belonging.
And beyond that, mental health impact, physical health can suffer too when people are displaced. They often lose access to their regular healthcare providers, which can disrupt care for chronic conditions or lead to delays in seeking treatment.
It's a reminder that the impact of displacement goes far beyond just losing, a physical dwelling.
Yeah.
We're talking about the potential unraveling of a person's entire support system, their economic stability, even their health.
It's a multi-layered issue with serious consequences, and we can't forget the impact on children when families are displaced. Children are often forced to switch schools.
Which can be hugely disruptive to their education, their social development, their sense of normalcy.
Yeah, it affects their grades, their social skills, even their mental and emotional well-being. So we've laid out the problem. Urban displacement has these far-reaching consequences for individuals, families, entire communities, but it's not an insurmountable problem. There are things we can do.
Okay, I'm ready to shift gears to solutions. What are some strategies that can help us, create more inclusive and equitable cities?
For me, it all starts with community engagement. Residents need to have a voice in the decisions that shape their neighborhoods.
Yeah, we need to move beyond those empty gestures, those box-checking exercises that masquerade as community engagement. It needs to be authentic, transparent, and impactful. What does that look like in practice?
It means bringing residents to the table from the very beginning, not after decisions have already been made. It means creating a space where they feel heard, respected, and empowered to share their perspectives. It means providing them with the resources and information they need to participate meaningfully.
So authentic and impactful community engagement is crucial, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. What other solutions are out there?
We need to bolster our affordable housing policies, things like inclusionary zoning.
And a quick reminder for our urban explorers, inclusionary zoning requires developers to include a certain percentage of affordable housing units in new residential developments.
Exactly. It's a way to ensure that new construction benefits a range of income levels, not just the wealthy.
And it helps to prevent that concentration of poverty that can occur when affordable housing is only built in certain areas.
Precisely, and beyond inclusionary zoning, cities can explore density bonuses.
So rewarding developers for building more units, especially affordable units.
Exactly. And then there's land trusts, which we touched on earlier.
Land trusts take land out of that speculative market and use it to create and preserve affordable housing. It's a long-term solution that can help stabilize communities and prevent displacement.
Right. These are just a few examples, but they highlight the power of proactive policy in creating more equitable cities.
So we've talked about community engagement and affordable housing policies. What else can cities do to combat displacement?
Tenant protections are essential. We need legal frameworks in place that prevent unjust evictions and help to control rent increases.
It's about making sure that tenants have a fair chance to stay in their homes and aren't being pushed out unfairly. What are some specific policies that can provide those protections?
Things like just cause eviction ordinances, which limit the reasons why a landlord can evict a tenant, can be very effective.
So preventing those arbitrary evictions where landlords are just trying to get rid of tenants to raise rents.
Exactly. And of course, there's rent control. It's a controversial topic, but it can be an important tool for stabilizing rents and preventing displacement.
I know some people argue that rent control discourages development and can actually lead to higher rents in the long run.
There are valid concerns, but I think it's important to have a nuanced discussion about the different models of rent control and their potential impacts. Some models have been more successful than others.
So finding the right approach for each city is crucial.
Absolutely. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And then there's neighborhood change monitoring. This one often gets overlooked, but it's crucial for preventing displacement before it reaches a crisis point.
Remind us what neighborhood change monitoring entails.
It's about keeping a close eye on those early warning signs of displacement. We need to track things like rising rents, property values, and changes in the demographics of a neighborhood. By identifying these trends early on, we can intervene before it's too late.
So it's like taking a proactive approach to urban planning rather than just reacting to problems after they've already emerged.
Exactly. And there are some great initiatives out there doing just that. There's a project called Turning the Corner that's been studying neighborhood change in several U.S. cities. Their research highlights the importance of those proactive measures in preventing displacement.
Data is crucial, but we also need to make sure we're talking to residents, understanding their experiences and incorporating their perspectives into our solutions. It's about combining data with those qualitative insights to get a holistic view of what's happening in a neighborhood.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's not just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about people's lives, their stories, their sense of belonging. And that brings us to another solution. I'm particularly passionate about community-led development.
I was hoping you'd bring that up. It's an approach that's gaining traction. And for good reason. Tell our listeners a bit about community-led development.
It's about shifting power dynamics. Instead of having outside developers dictate what happens in a neighborhood, it's about putting residents in the driver's seat, giving them the agency to shape their own futures.
So no more top-down solutions. It's about empowering communities to take ownership of the development process. What are some of the benefits of this approach?
First and foremost, it ensures that development projects are truly aligned with the needs and aspirations of the community. It's about creating developments that are context-sensitive, that reflect the unique character and history of the neighborhood.
And when residents are involved in the process, they're more likely to feel invested in the outcomes. It creates a sense of ownership, sense of pride.
It can lead to more sustainable and equitable development outcomes. It's about creating win-win situations for everyone involved.
Do you have any examples of successful community-led development projects? I'm always inspired by seeing these ideas put into action.
There are so many inspiring examples. The Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative in Boston is one that comes to mind. They've been working for decades to revitalize their community while preventing displacement.
I've heard great things about their work. What have they been able to achieve?
They've built affordable housing, created community gardens, and revitalized public spaces, all while keeping residents at the heart of the process. It's a testament to the power of community organizing and collaboration.
It shows that when communities come together with a shared vision, they can achieve incredible things.
Absolutely. And another great example is the East Lake community in Atlanta. They transformed a neighborhood once plagued by poverty and crime into a thriving mixed-income community.
Wow. How do they manage to turn things around?
They focused on a holistic approach, creating mixed-income housing, improving educational opportunities, and providing essential social services, all with a strong emphasis on resident involvement. The results have been remarkable. Crime rates have plummeted, educational outcomes have improved, and the community has become a model for holistic revitalization.
These examples show that community-led development isn't just some idealistic concept. It's a practical and powerful way to create more just and equitable cities.
It really is. So we've got community engagement, affordable housing policies, tenant protections, neighborhood change monitoring, and community-led development. These are all tools in our arsenal for combating displacement and creating cities that work for everyone.
It's an interconnected system. These solutions work best when they're implemented together holistically.
You got it. There's no magic bullet. But by taking a multifaceted approach and putting people at the center of our efforts, we can create real and lasting change.
It's about aligning our policies with our values. If we truly believe in inclusive and equitable cities, then our actions need to reflect that.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, Urban Explorers, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the complexities of urban displacement, the devastating impact it can have on communities, and crucially, the solutions that can help us create more just and equitable cities.
It's been a dense but important discourse.
It has, but before we wrap things up, I want to shift gears and highlight some real-world examples of cities that are implementing innovative policies to combat displacement and create more inclusive communities.
I always love a good success story. Let's see what other cities are doing to make a difference.
All right, Urban Explorers, let's take a trip to the West Coast, see what's happening in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, Portland's been at the forefront of tackling displacement with a really comprehensive approach. One of their key strategies is inclusionary zoning.
Yeah, we touched on that a bit earlier. How is Portland putting that into practice?
Well, for new developments of a certain size, developers have to either include affordable housing units on site or contribute to a city fund that supports affordable housing development elsewhere. It ensures that new construction isn't just catering to the wealthy.
So they're baking affordability right into the city's growth spec.
Yeah.
Smart move. What else are they doing in Portland?
They've also got a really strong tenant protection program, which includes relocation assistance for tenants who are displaced through no fault of their own.
Well, that's huge. It means if a landlord decides to, demolish or renovate a building, the tenants aren't just left high and dry.
Right, it gives them some financial support and breathing room to find a new place to live, which can make a world of difference during, a stressful time.
Portland's setting a great example, but they're not alone. What other cities are coming up with innovative solutions?
Let's head back to the Midwest. Minneapolis has taken a bold step by eliminating single-family zoning citywide.
Whoa, that's a big change. What's the thinking behind that?
It's about opening up neighborhoods that have traditionally been dominated by single-family homes and creating more diverse housing options. They're hoping to encourage the development of duplexes, triplexes, and other types of housing that can help increase density and create more affordable choices.
It's a way to address those exclusionary zoning practices that have often contributed to, segregation and inequality in our cities. Love it.
It's a bold move, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But what's really encouraging is that both Portland and Minneapolis are putting a strong emphasis on community engagement in their policymaking.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that top-down solutions don't work. We need to listen to the voices of the people who are most affected by these issues and work together to create solutions that actually, meet their needs.
Couldn't agree more. It's a reminder that effective urban policy is rooted in collaboration and a deep understanding of the local context.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a surge of optimism after hearing about these initiatives. It shows that cities are willing to experiment, to challenge the status quo, and to prioritize people over profits.
It's inspiring, isn't it? Change is possible, but it requires that commitment to collaboration, a willingness to think outside the box, and the courage to put people at the center of our urban planning.
Absolutely, and it's a call to action for all of us. Don't just be an observer of your city, be an active participant.
Love that. So how can our listeners get involved?
Educate yourself about the issues facing your community. Attend city council meetings, connect with local organizations that are working on these issues, and don't be afraid to speak up, to advocate for the changes you want to see. Every voice matters.
Every action, no matter how small, can contribute to building more just and equitable cities.
Well, urban explorers, we've reached the end of our discourse today. I hope this conversation has given you some food for thought and inspired you to get involved in shaping the future of your city.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing for progress.
And remember, the future of our cities is in our hands.